Back to Take Apart Engineering. Today we're going to have a project that's a little bit different. Several months ago I found a monorail from Disney World, the toy, not the real one, and picked it up, and I thought today would be a good day for us to walk through what the inside of the monorail toy looks like. So let's get started, and we'll take apart the monorail engine for the monorail toy.
Let's take a quick look here at this. On the car itself, you've got an on-off switch, which turns your power on and off. You access the batteries through the top, which simply by taking off one screw on the access case. And you can see that it takes two AA batteries. I've switched over on mine. I don't know how well you can see that, but I've purchased, instead of continuing to use regular AA batteries, which is a continuing cost, I purchased off off Amazon, a couple of the rechargeable lithium batteries. And those run, you can buy them in packs of 3 to 5, and there's a charge for those. But then you can recharge each one using a USB port, either on your computer or a USB charger / wall wart, however you normally charge your battery operated systems, your computer, your cell phone, or whatever. It takes a standard USB connection. So I purchased those, and I use them for other projects as well. But that's how you access the batteries. Those can be recharged, so you're actually purchasing them once and then recharging, rather than continuing to purchase batteries over and over and over again. But to access the actual mechanical systems, what you need to do is flip the unit over, and if you look at the bottom, you've got a series of rollers that actually ride on the track, on the monorail track. These in the rear are basically idler rollers, and then the ones here in front are driven by your 3-volt motor and your gearing system inside. Now, the idlers are stationary; they can't be removed, but you can lubricate them simply by putting a little bit of I use white lithium grease on there if you feel the need to do that. And the drive motors can be removed should one of them crack, because it's a rubberized plastic, so that it grips the track. You can remove those should you need to do maintenance on those or replace them. And then you have another idler roller that rides on the top of the track, and again, you can add lithium grease to that. To take and actually get to the electronics and to the gearing, you take this small Phillips screw that's in the front, take it out, make sure you don't lose that screw, and then the unit will come apart, and you can have access to all of your electronics and your gearing system. Now, they've got a lot of stuff packed inside of this little unit. On the top half, you've got your electronics, which, with your remote for this unit, you'll see that on this remote you've got obviously a front and reverse start and stop button. You have a overall, what I call the panic button, the stop button, and then you have a button that you push that will give you a verbal command, like the time to open and shut the doors, and welcome to Disneyland monorail system, those type of things. All right. So that is all housed in your electronics here. You can see a ton of wires going to this unit. There's also another case here. This is where all of your gearing system is accessed. Should you ever need to replace this 3-volt motor, you'd have to replace this whole unit. For what we're going to do this morning, we're going to remove the screws on the top half. And again, as you remove these, you want to make sure you set these aside where you're not going to lose them. And this access is actually in layers. If you take this top plate off, and as I take these screws out, you'll see that this will give you access to just the gears, the nylon gears for the system. If you take the rest of the screws off, or in some case, maybe if you've used this a lot, you can see you have access to the on-off switch. You could be replaced as well. Once you've taken off these top 3 screws, you can remove very carefully. Oops, sorry. I've got to take off these as well. I forgot about these back here. 2 different size screws. These smaller screws house or hold down the unit with the gearing. And as you're doing this, you want to make sure you don't cut through any of the wires or rub the insulation off of any of your wires, because you don't want to create a short on your system. So after you've taken off these 5 screws, this unit lifts up. Now if you're going to, as you notice, as you pull it off, just don't rip it off. As you pull it off, you can see here that you've got some metal shafts sticking through. And those shafts attach to your gears. So when you pull it off slowly and carefully, so that you can just roll it back. And as you can see, you've got your 3-volt motor with a drive gear on it. And then you have your idler gears and your drive gears that are attached to those drive rollers on the underneath side. And what you want to do, as you can see, I've already gone back and added some lithium grease to this. What you want to do to keep these lubricated, because being that they're nylon, and in some cases plastic, depending on who the manufacturer was, because Disney had different people manufacture these, you want to, what I do is I take my lithium grease, and rather than using my finger, I take a little bit on the end of my screwdriver, and wherever the gears interact, where you've got gear touching gear, I put just a dab of the lithium grease on those. Just enough to keep it lubricated. You don't have to smother it, and you don't have to remove the gears from the unit. You just want to make sure you dab a little bit of your lithium grease on each one of those gears so that it will make connection. Then you're going to take your motor unit and you're going to replace, putting it right back down on top of those shafts from the gears. Make sure you have your wiring put back in place so you don't pinch it when you slide it together. And then you want to replace your screws. Remember, you've got 5 screws there. As you can see, I'm using a magnetized screwdriver. It makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to do that, but it does make it a little bit easier taking them in and out. And you don't want to tighten these down with a torque wrench. All you want to do is just tighten them and snug them. And what I do is I try to get them started to where they're making connection, and once they make connection, I back off, go to the next one. And I usually work my way one end to the other end to keep things from being uneven. And remember, these are plastic cases with metal screws. So if you tighten these screws down too tight too many times, what's going to happen? You're going to strip out the plastic. Then you're going to be looking at trying to find a bigger screw, one that'll fit within the size of the case. So be gentle with these things, but yet snug them down. Once you have all 5 of them in, think back and just snug them to make sure that the top of the case sits even all the way across. Okay, so we've got our case back on. Double check and make sure you've got your shafts sticking up out just like they were before. You got all 5 of your screws in. You might want to double check just to make sure you've got your wires all in the correct place. Nothing's sitting along the edge. It's going to get in the way when you put it back together. Then take your 2 halves. Put them back together, making sure you don't have any of the wires sticking out along the sides. And then you want to replace your 1 screw that holds the 2 halves together. And again, all you're doing is snugging this down. You don't want to tighten it down too hard. Okay. Once you've got that together, then what you can do, let me get my lithium grease out of the way. With your batteries in, take your remote, turn your switch on with your batteries in, and start up your motor. Because you want that, gives you the lithium grease an opportunity to transfer from that one spot and completely cover the gearing on your unit. Now, because it's an electric motor, you can hear you're hearing that motor turn and those drive gears all work together. And again, as you saw when we opened it up, there's several. So each one of those is running nylon to nylon, which is important that you have that lithium grease on there. Once you've got that, you can click stop.
Thanks for traveling with us, and we hope you'll have a happy and memorable visit here at Disneyland.
And again, that's the yellow button on the remote.
Welcome aboard the Disneyland Monorail.
That gives you your commands. Run it in reverse. Make sure everything is working okay. And you're good to go. So then you can replace your top piece. Snug down your screw on the top. And you're ready for many, many hours of having your monorail run on its track.